welcome back to This Authoritarian Life, me and she's podcast focusing on total self-discovery. Pretty big news these past few days, huh, she?
Yeah, the movie Jaws turned 50 years old.
Wow, 50 years, huh? Time is really fly. Shark, I think, got kind of bad rep there. This guy again.
Again? He's been blowing me up for days, too.
Okay. Hello?
Vladimir, it's me, the Ayatollah.
Oh, hi. How's it going, man?
Missiles were falling, drones were exploding.
So you are vacationing in Ukraine. You know...
What? No, here in Iran. Aren't you going to help me against Great Satan and Little Satan?
Look, what they did to you was very bad, and I'm holding space for you, okay? But today is not a great day for me to actually help you.
Well, why not?
I have to, take my cat to the vet.
Bashe, cats are important. What about the day after?
You know, my Outlook calendar is acting up. Always at worst time, da? Look, let's talk later. I'm in middle of recording podcast with she and...
You're with she? Am I on a speaker?
Say something.
Yes, hello. Look, all of the oil is flowing, no problem. But I am needing more of your help. Sorry, the connection is really bad. You're saying you're eating more and more kelp? That's great news. The health benefits are... What? Guys, I thought we were like bros, like even an access even. Guys?
Did you realize that the shark in Jaws was named for Steven Spielberg's lawyer?
Huh?
2, 3,
Somewhere in the bowels of the city that never sleeps
Kevin McCullough, radio host with Salem Media,
is a man also not sleeping.
Syndicated radio talk show host Kevin McCullough.
And that guy would like a word with you.
Many of you know him as Nostradamus.
Of course that Kevin show is going to be great. The only thing that could be greater, of course, would be that Donald show. We don't have that, so we have that Kevin show.
Featuring the music of Dick Tunney and the Dream in Color Orchestra. Straight ahead. It's big, it's beautiful, it's being debated, and it's got full educational freedom in it. Erika Donalds with the big, beautiful bill. Later, Tiffany Justice and Parental Rights, along with Frank Morano and the crazy mayor's race of New York City. Plus, Ann Wilson in the spotlight. And now from Times Square, where the pigeons vote smarter than half of the 17% that will elect the next mayor, here's the governor!
All right, friends, good to have you. Dave, I keep forgetting that statistic, and you say it like that, and it just drives me crazy. As a reminder, no, you're forgiven. It drives me crazy because when you look at the importance of a race like the mayoralty of New York City, you want more than 17% of your people actually deciding it. And yet in the Adams and de Blasio and the last Bloomberg races, it's just gotten smaller and smaller amounts of people that have ended up deciding who the mayor of this city is. And it's coming home to roost because the crazy people in charge of the Democratic Party in the state of New York City have decided to go really crazy. And they've gone and elected as their nominee this Zohran Mamdani character, who is as anti-Semitic and anti-Jewish and as Nazi-filled with, fascist feelings as they come. He's got all these quotes that he's on the, he loves the Intifada. He's like, this is a bad guy. And somehow he garnered 50,000 volunteers to help him get out the vote and dethrone the more moderate part of the Democratic Party. Now, let's just be very clear. the moderate part of the Democratic Party in New York, in New York City especially, is worse than most of the rest of the country in terms of the Democratic Party. So the moderates are already bad enough. But then you've got this absolute loon who literally his campaign was built on, I will give you everything for free and I will take it away from people who are better off than you. How does anybody expect that to turn out in any way other than just the lowest information voters that you can have, and maybe not all of them are registered, turning up in huge numbers to put a Muslim Marxist socialist radical on the ballot? You've heard about London having, no-go Sharia zones. If that's what New York turns into, friends, America is doomed. And that's why you've got to, if you're a New York City resident, you have to vote in the general election, and you have to vote against that craziness. You have to vote against the radical Islamic extremist who wants to see the mosque built at 9/11, who wants to see the Intifada globalized, which is basically code language for we want to exterminate all Jews. You have to speak against the biggest evil. And I've said this for a long time, and this is Politics 101 for those of you that don't know how it works. In the primary of whatever state, race, etc., that you're running for, the primary and the general election serve two different purposes. This is part of KMC's Politics 101. You learn this, and you'll learn to look at everything very differently. But the primary is where you vote for purity. It's where you vote for your deepest held principles. You say, I'm going to put all of my eggs in this basket because they most closely believe what I believe to the greatest degree possible. That's a very healthy way of participating in a primary election. But when you move to the general election, your focus becomes different at that point, because you are no longer voting for the person of all the people that may have run in the race that is closest to you in purity. Now, maybe your guy won and got through to the next level, or gal. Maybe they won and got to the next level. Maybe that is exactly what you had hoped for and it came true. And if so, God bless you. You're better off than most people. But when you go from a primary race to a general election race, it is no longer about the candidate who most closely, puritanically matches themselves to you. You're not trying to be a purist anymore in the general election. What you are trying to do is stop the greatest evil from coming to power. What you're trying to do is to vote every way you can to keep the worst option out of government. So when it comes to the general election, New Yorkers, in November this year, please put on your common sense hat. Please don't get all focused on who's going to be the purist. Stop Zohran Mamdani. Because if you let an extremist, Muslim radical, socialist Marxist take over New York City, it will be London. It will be Sharia no-go zones. There will be problems within his term. So don't give him the opportunity. Don't give him the chance to do it. This is what AOC and Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib have been asking to do for years. They want to see a major American city become Islamized. We can't let that happen. More on all of the details of how this happened in hour 2 today. My good buddy, longtime friend, and now city councilman for the great city of New York, Frank Morano, will be here. He and I have discussed politics for dozens of years, and I couldn't be more thrilled to have his expert opinion on this, because when it comes to the mayor's race, not only will he have to interact with whoever becomes mayor, and as a city councilman from a Trump district, imagine the challenge that's going to be. But he's also happens to be very close friends with the Republican that's running, that won the nomination. I don't even know if he had a challenger, but Curtis Sliwa, talk show host. And I'm just saying, I voted, I was in support. I can't vote in the mayoral election. I was in support of Curtis Sliwa the last go around. I am in support of whoever will stop Mamdani this time. That's the most committed I'm going to make at this point. I will support the person that will stop that evil. That evil scares the living daylights out of me for New York City. It's not a good move for New York. All right, we've got a lot to get to. Besides that, the Supreme Court educational stuff has been coming down. We've got some really big move on the parental rights front. But coming up next, she loves the big, beautiful bill because it got all the educational freedom stuff in it, and she's hoping it will pass like the president is. But she also herself is a beautiful soul. Erika Donalds, the next First Lady of the state of Florida, will be with us. Kevin McCullough, it's a huge mission. Ann Wilson in the spotlight. Come on back now. Let's have fun.
Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. It's thatkevinshow.com for everything that you need. All the social media, the website, the podcast, the newsletters. It's all there. Thatkevinshow.com. Please go check it out. We are, of course, following the events in the Middle East closely, and we will bring you up to speed on everything that we know as we know it. But there are other things still going on. And so for that reason, I want to press forward on some of those items in these days, because it's important not to lose track of the entire progress that the country is making. And I am very, very excited about the fact that my educational choice people seem to be very happy with the big, beautiful bill. Here to discuss is Erika Donalds of the America First Policy Institute. She is the chair of education opportunity for them. And she also, I hope, will be the next First Lady of Florida. Erika, it's good to see you again. Let's start with the good news, the big, beautiful bill. If it gets passed, are the educational portions, do they look like they're going to survive reconciliation?
Well, I believe so. And it's exciting for us, as you mentioned, school choice advocates and education reformers. We've got not only a federal tax credit, which will give rise to millions of dollars, in fact, $4 billion in scholarships for families around the country to allow them, even in blue states, to choose a private school education or even fund homeschool expenses for their children and rescue them from the monopolistic government-run schools. That's the ECCA, the Education Choice for Children Act, that's in there. And there's also reforms to 529, which allow 529 funds to be used for education expenses, not just higher ed, not just private school tuition, but also online courses, homeschool curricula, and the like. And so two very exciting K-12 reforms, in addition to all of the higher education reforms that President Trump and Linda McMahon have been talking about.
Yeah, those higher things are really important. We still see the drastic impact of horrible leftist policies all across the major institutions of higher learning across the country. But on those points of funding, is this vouchers by a different name? I mean, I remember when the educational choice, movement was getting started in the 1970s, and it was a long time ago. And we've been talking about these different options. But for homeschool and for online school and for private schools to all now have access to basically the same student body that the public schools do, this is going to introduce competition, and hopefully all of the educational experiences that American kids are dealing with will improve.
Well, it's absolutely right. And it does include vouchers, but I would say it's not only vouchers, because in our states, we have education scholarship accounts. And those are the organizations that are.
I forgot about that. That's like a medical savings account, but it's the same type of concept, but it's just for education.
Correct. And so not only will these scholarship funding organizations that receive the donations, that dollar for dollar tax credit is applied to, they can provide vouchers for private school tuition, but they can also provide funding, to your point, sort of like an HSA, but for education expenses. And that's going to be available in all 50 states. That's what's so beautiful about it, because so many families in Maryland, in New York, in California, in Colorado are desperate for options and have not seen a light at the end of the tunnel. The Education Choice for Children Act is that light, and this is just the beginning of national school choice. It does reduce the tax revenue of the federal government, but it's a dollar for dollar tax credit, allowing people like me and you to donate our money because we want it to go towards school choice.
Well, the interesting thing about this is if you start solving that problem, eventually problems like boys and girls locker rooms goes away, because this is the ultimate kind of game changer for parents to say, I'm taking back control of my child's education. Now, I've advocated for years, it doesn't matter if your kids are in public school, charter school, Christian school, private school, homeschool, you as the parent, you have the ultimate responsibility to educate them. But it's really hard to be as involved if you're putting them on a bus and sending them away, and then 9 hours later they get dropped back off. Like that's always been a model to me that seems pretty fraught with, the parents losing the ability to really have a say on what's happening. This seems like the ultimate power back to the parent kind of empowerment that everybody has been wanting.
It is, and I've long said that school choice is the solving all of the ills in education. It solves the problem with teachers' unions because most of our choice schools do not have to be unionized, and parents can then choose to go outside of the schools that are hogtied by union regulations and rules. It solves the problem of curriculum transparency because if I'm choosing the school, most of the time that school has every incentive to show me exactly what they're teaching my child, and it allows for me to choose based on the different curriculum that are offering. It solves the value of the issue of values being indoctrinated into your child in the school because I can choose a school that aligns with my values. To your point, I don't have to send my child to a place where I don't trust what they are telling my child and that it's in opposition to what I teach at home. I can choose based on my value set as well. So school choice is really solving a lot of those issues.
And these are self-inflicted wounds that the educational system put into action because nobody told them to take up pronouns or gender theory or any of the other stuff that or
hide those things from parents.
Well, yeah. So they first they tell them there are these other things, and then when the kids respond to them, now they're involved in deception. And it really speaks of like a cloaked, communism from like the 1960s and 70s, where the state literally took the children and said they belong to us, and you don't get a say, parents. I'm sorry, we may have some socialist tendencies at times, and our political circles might bring a Barack Obama to power every now and then. But I don't think on the whole that American parents are ready to say, okay, let's let the state just, take care of all the kids for us.
Ultimately, education freedom is good for the future of our country, not just for each individual child that's going to get the education that allows them to thrive academically, but it allows families to thrive as well because it creates a cohesion between the environment that the student is in all day and the family unit and not a division. And then to accountability, the accountability to the parent is the ultimate form of local control, where parents are the ones who are deciding what academic experience their child needs and whether that is adequate to ensure that they are prepared to achieve the American dream. Parents are the best ones to police that. And I believe that when parents can police that, more children will achieve success and achieve the American dream. That helps the entire country. It allows us to continue to be competitive globally, academically, and innovative.
Well, and I find it tremendously encouraging that you, as the mother of African-American males in particular, have this outlook, this opportunity, and the ability to speak out on this. Because one of the things that's been a real scandal in our near history is the impact, particularly on African-American boys caught in public school systems that don't get serviced, don't get taught. And what is left for them in many, urban centers is they end up being swallowed up into families of gangs and other ne'er-do-wells that don't have their best interests at heart. This is not an intangible set of improvements. This is very tangible. And I think that you're a tremendous vehicle for this message because of the hope that it gives everyone. on. Let's take a quick break. I'm Kevin McCullough. She's Erika Donalds. This is That Kevin Show from New York.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. From New York, That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back, Kevin McCullough. Glad to have you with us. One of my favorite people to talk to about all things education is Erika Donalds, and she continues with us here. Erika, recently, a woman by the name of Randi Weingarten, who has been well known in educational circles, not for great education, I might add, has left the Democratic Party. But it's not like other people that have left the Democratic Party and said, I've seen the error of my ways. I'm going to go join MAGA or something like it. No, she said that they weren't doing enough by way of radical, progressive, protest and everything else. She's joined recent ICE protests. She's protested against some of the most moderate and some of the most reasonable and common sense stuff going on in the country. And this is the person that all the smart people at all the wine and cheese parties in Washington, D.C. and in New York have been telling us for years should be in charge of our child's education. In fact, this was the person that during COVID was allowed to kind of handwrite the policy for big health to tell our kids in schools how to come back from that disease. I'm just curious, with this procedure of events here, what's your thought on Randi Weingarten and what's happened to our public educators and the people that advocate for them?
Now, Randi Weingarten, head of one of the nation's largest teachers union, as you've said, has had an outsized influence in our politics. She has been the one to direct 98% of the union donations to Democrats over the years. And the reason why the unions have such a stronghold over the Democrat Party, despite so much opposition to their positions. Last week, we saw her at the No Kings protest, inciting chaos and violence in the anti-ICE protests. Just the latest in the radical leftist ideology emanating from her and from the teachers' unions in general, which has really broken down the trust of the American people who used to think of teachers as a trusted profession and now are starting to separate the teachers in their children's classroom from the unions, which are really just a leftist political organization.
Well, and I have to make that distinction often here at the microphone because I don't want teachers hearing me saying that I'm lumping them in with the teachers' unions. I wouldn't trust the teachers' unions further than I could kick them, and I can't kick anything very far. But I love the commitment that your average teachers have to their classroom. I happen to know a lot of personal born-again Christian teachers that are in the public schools that are working very hard to not just do a good job in terms of educating, but they really see their role as a mission in their life and in trying to do a good job in that space. And I do think that we need more people of good intention and faith and everything else in the mainstream. Otherwise, we'll lose it altogether. That doesn't mean I necessarily think all kids should be sent there, but we've got to, it's kind of be an all hands on deck approach in my mind. But when you have someone sitting at the top of the union like Randi Weingarten, it makes it very difficult for someone like me to say I would ever want to be in the educational arena just because of that hostility.
And more educators do want out of the unions. We're seeing in places like Florida, thanks to some of the recent Supreme Court decisions, which are freeing educators from the stronghold of the union. In Florida, we also did paycheck protection, which means that districts can no longer automatically deduct union dues from teacher paychecks. The unions have to go directly to the teachers and get paid just like every other association or organization. And we're seeing union membership drop sometimes below 50%, which gives rise to a decertification process. And that has happened even in Miami-Dade County here in Florida.
Wow.
I think as we continue to see more freedom for educators not to belong to the union and to have options like charter schools and private schools where they can go and have education freedom, educator freedom, if you will, we're going to see more and more weakening of the unions. And that's why I think they're going even more to the left, because they need the support of George Soros and other leftist organizations, because they're losing the support of their own members.
Yeah, the power of the everyday army is important to them, and if you can manipulate them and keep them in line, then you can have a money train of sorts. But it sounds like with some of the reforms that you've put in place, even there in Florida, that the end of their days is ahead of them, and it doesn't have to be a negative. Like they could reform themselves and change a lot for the better for our students and for our country. They just simply choose not to. And I'm tired of this, Erika. People talking about, how, fascist Donald Trump is, or anti-American people that love our country and, want like traditional common sense ideas. It's the exact opposite. We're the ones that are saying, what have you done to our country? We want to return to a sense of normalcy and common sense. We'd like fact-based education as opposed to feelings-based.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. From New York, That Kevin McCullough.
All right, friends, welcome back. Just a couple of things. Did you know that everything we do is online at thatkevinshow.com? And it's through our friends at Salem Media Group. It's been improved and significantly will be doing a lot more than it has been doing. But all of my radio, all of my different areas of interest. You know that I do one broadcast a week that's just focused on entertainment and tourism in New York. I do another one that does travel across the country and around the globe. And then everything else we do is news of the day, kind of top stories of the day, and what we think about it and how it impacts us and so forth. And then, of course, all of our That Kevin Show TV shows are there. And we would love for you to interact with us there. And the reason that I'm pointing you there is because there is also a place where you can subscribe to my new travel publication called That Passport Life. And That Passport Life is custom content about the greatest places to travel to and about and to see. It's loaded with visuals. We think you're really going to love it. And I've got some great contributors that are on the staff that are helping us put it together. It's a really special publication. I'm really proud of it. And there are more than 500,000 people a week that get it and that are enjoying it, and they're telling their friends. It's an incredible thing, and I hope you can join us. So go to thatkevinshow.com and subscribe to the That Passport Life publication. You can also get my Video Insider email, which is a kind of fun one. It gives you just a little snippet of something kind of tasty on video every day. And I hope you'll check that out as well when you go to thatkevinshow.com. All of it's free. I never put anything behind a paywall. None of the podcasts, none of the highlights, none of the newsletters, nothing. You get everything from us at gratis. We just want to get the information in your hands and hope that it will be of help to you. Now, I want to say thank you to those of you that have been joining us on the journey for helping us liberate slaves this year. Because of your faithfulness, we have already, and we just started a few weeks ago, liberated 31 human slaves in Sudan, or we've spoken for them. The liberations kind of happen at kind of key junctures throughout the year, and we can't ever tell you the date ahead of time. We can tell you when we've completed one, but we can't tell you ahead of time because we don't want to jeopardize the negotiations and everything else. But Northern Sudan has 185,000
women and children in captivity at the peak of the Sudan Civil War. We've gotten that number down now to roughly 35,000, we think, somewhere in that neighborhood, that still remain in slavery. And Christian Solidarity International, my good partners on this, have been the only people that have been speaking up and doing anything about it. Well, having said that, we are trying to liberate another 208 of those human slaves. We know their names, we know they're at, we know how to go and help them not only be free, but then we will resource them. We will give them a year's worth of food. We will give them a year's worth of seed. We will give them an additional set of utensils to cook and clean and fish with. There's for the women, there are feminine products that we make available. There are things that they need to just get by in life, like tarps and blankets. But then there's also a little she-goat that they get that will help them not only make cheese and milk and stuff like that, but then they can breed and sell the kidlings to other people and have like a little job, a little source of income for their family. So we hope that you will help us accomplish all of that. 888-342-1010 is the number. 888-342-1010. If you call, it costs $250 to help one woman. There are 208 on our list, but now that number's down to 177 because of the 31 that have been spoken for. Over the years, we've liberated almost 5,000 of these women. And now even some of their children have been freed as well. So will you help us? 888-342-1010. Listen to how it impacts their life.
My name is Nanya Newt. I was about 15 years old when I was captured. My mom had spent the last few days teaching me all about what it meant to be a good wife and a mom, showing me how to cook and sew. She had hoped I would get married in the future. One day I was out collecting firewood, and that was when the Arabs found me and captured me and took me to Sudan without the chance to tell my family goodbye. It took me many days to walk the complete journey. They gave us boiled sorghum as we went, and the men that had been captured with us faced grave dangers. They were considered to be spies, and most of them were killed right in front of us. Upon arrival in the north, I was sold to a master in Miriam village, and then I was sold almost as quickly to another Arab in McCullough Gate. He made me work for his family, sweeping the compound and washing the dishes. They worked me long and terrible hours, pounding sorghum, fetching water. And then they said in order to be a good Muslim woman, I would need to be circumcised. I was held down as it happened, and then I was forced to marry. Against my will, they forced me to work even when I was sick. And if I did anything that made them angry, they would beat me. My master never bought me any clothes, never paid me for any of my work, and barely ever fed me. Then one day, I heard about a CSI retriever, and I ran to find him in the town. As it turned out, they were freeing slaves in my region, and they had not known about me. But I think God allowed me to find them because they brought me home. We walked that same journey back to South Sudan. And today I thank God because I am free. I thank the Arab retriever because he helped. I thank CSI and for those who gave. I cannot thank those of you who gave money to help us become free ever enough in all of my life. But I do hope that my prayer is answered, that we will not stop until they are all free.
Friends, you've helped us free 31 so far, but there are another 177 women that are in captivity, with some with children, that we could liberate right now. 888-342-1010, 888-342-1010, or just go to bringherhome.org, bringherhome.org. And again, the McCullough family matching every slave that you free this weekend.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.
Ladies Elizabeth, I only bombed the pee-pee out of Iran because they're building nuclear weapons and they must be stopped. Those people are crazy enough to wear towels on their heads, so how can we trust them with nuclear weapons? Donald, saying Iran can't have nuclear weapons is extremely Islamophobic. You don't even know if they'd use them on the United States. Elizabeth, that's where you're wrong, I do know. When Pete Hegseth told me, I ran straight here and said, Pete, bomb the pee-pee out of them. Do you even know if they could build nuclear weapons? Does an Iranian man wear a towel on his head? Why don't you ask Ted Cruz? Teddy Bear, does Iran have the capability to produce nuclear weapons?
All right, I just want to make sure Tucker Carlson's not there with you, is he?
No, there's no Tucker Carlson here, Ted. You're safe.
All right. Well, I'm pretty sure Iran can build nuclear weapons.
Okay, and what is the evidence that you had again?
Well, that's not important right now. What's important is that it seems like they can build nuclear weapons.
And there you have it, Elizabeth. What more proof do you need? Donald, as someone who's 1/1000th Iranian, I can tell you bombing Iran just because they were making nuclear weapons to use on the United States was completely Islamophobic. Elizabeth, all I did was mostly peacefully bomb Iran. They tried to attack us in return, but it was like a child with severe muscular dystrophy trying to fight Mike Tyson. I made them look like a bunch of sandy baloney ponies, and it led to a very successful ceasefire deal.
Donald, Israel just broke the ceasefire.
Oh, but what the hell happened?
Well, the ceasefire was going great for a couple hours. Then Benjamin Netanyahu told the Grand Ayatollah he's so dumb he's the turban tard. So the Grand Ayatollah said, is that smell gefilte fish or did you forget to shower? That's when Netanyahu complained to the IDF and ordered the strikes on Iran.
All right, I'll call Netanyahu. Benjamin, you have no idea what you're doing. I demand you stop the fighting immediately. I'm coming to the Middle East right now and we're gonna settle this.
Donald, he started it. He told me that the title of Grand Ayatollah sounds like the name of a crappy motel chain in Las Vegas.
Only after you said, how does a Jewish man change a light bulb? He hires his nephew to do it.
Well, that was after you said, I once asked an Islamic bartender to make me an Irish car bomb, but instead he gave me an Irish suicide vest.
Somewhere in the bowels of the city that never sleeps,
Kevin McCullough, radio host with Salem Media,
is a man also not sleeping.
Syndicated radio talk show host Kevin McCullough.
And that guy would like a word with you.
Many of you know him as Nostradamus.
Of course that Kevin show is going to be great. The only thing that could be greater, of course, would be that Donald show. We don't have that, so we have that Kevin show.
Featuring the music of Dick Tunney and the Dream in Color Orchestra. Still to come. Have New Yorkers absolutely lost it? Islamic radical for mayor wins primary. Frank Morano weighs in. And parental rights have a new defense. Tiffany Justice from the Heritage Foundation joins us. Sketch comedy from Al Berry and Nick Peterson. And she's back. Ann Wilson in the Spotlight. And now from Times Square, he mans his post at a place where the mayoral primary was dirtier than a subway pole. Here's
Assignment Desk Weekend. I'm Kevin McCullough. First up, breaking news. The impossible has happened. Former President Donald J. Trump, yes, the very same that MSNBC warned would personally try to ban joy and hope and cats, has converted a lifelong Democrat auto worker. The man reportedly saw Trump's big, beautiful bill with a vehicle loan tax benefit package so big it needed a garage to park itself in, and he said, yeah, I'm in. I like Trump. Union bosses were reportedly holding an emergency therapy circle to process the trauma while Joe Biden was last seen trying to shake hands with an electric vehicle charging station. Meanwhile, in Washington, remember that tiny little government agency Democrats said was perfectly clean and above reproach, USAID? Yeah. Turns out it's a fraud factory. Billions, yes, billions with a B, misused, misplaced, or maybe just accidentally directed into a Cayman Islands account called definitely not Nancy's Slush Fund, LLC. Speaking of dogs chasing their tails, over at The View, Joy Behar. Oh yeah, she's officially entered her I never thought I'd say this but era. Yes, folks, now Joy hopes Trump's strikes on Iran are successful, which is weird because just last year she was pretty sure bombing anything was literal fascism. But now she's Team Bunker Buster, baby. ABC producers are reportedly fitting her with a red MAGA sun hat. And expect her memoir, From Botox to Bunker Bombs, to hit shelves this fall. Hold your applause, however, because language evidently matters. According to media experts, the real story isn't whether Iran's uranium program now looks like Swiss cheese. No, the real story is words. Words. Turns out if you call it an airstrike, it sounds all scary. But if you call it an unscheduled underground architectural remodel, polls about 17 points higher. In health news, if you thought cigarettes were bad, hold my vape. A new study shows disposable vapes are more toxic and more carcinogenic than cigarettes. You heard that right. All those teens who gave up Marlboros for a watermelon kiwi cloud of synthetic regret. Turns out, big mistake. But don't worry. Big Vape promises the next model will be sustainably carcinogenic. And because nature hates us, a beachgoer in Florida, you know it's always Florida, accidentally picked up a cute little seashell that was actually a venomous snail that can kill an adult in minutes. Experts warn if it's colorful, beautiful, or remotely Instagrammable, it's probably poisonous, venomous, or secretly a federal agent. Meanwhile, in higher education, the University of Wisconsin continues to prove that student loans were an excellent investment. Documents reveal that the school in 2024 spent $136,000 on sex toys. And finally, in billionaire romance news, Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez are proving that love isn't dead, it's just obscenely expensive. The couple married in Venice this last week because apparently Planet Earth is their registry. Ahead of the wedding, though, they hosted a steamy foam party aboard their $500 million super yacht. Foam, bikinis, enough champagne to drown a small village. Reporters asked, "Do you think this might be excessive?" Bezos replied, "Excessive? Please, this is brunch." And that's the way it is, or at least the way we wish it wasn't. For a Simon Desk Weekend, I'm Kevin McCullough.
So this is what a brick oven pizza sees. How did we get here? Well, King Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, made a 90-foot golden idol of himself and required everyone to worship it. We chose to defy that command. And now we get to live out the verse about being the potter's clay. See, this is what a king does to people. I will say, though, this has been a mostly peaceful furnace. Well, maybe if y'all joined me for a protest, we wouldn't be here. You know, I can't believe standing on the corner shouting, "No kings!" didn't change a divinely appointed leader. I cranked it up. 7 times hotter than usual. A couple of my guards died just throwing them in. That was kind of a bummer, actually. I don't love the new names Nebuchadnezzar gave us. I doubt they're going to be on anyone's baby name list. Well, by erasing our Hebrew identities, it protects us from Babylonian persecution. Yeah, we really sidestepped that landmine. What we need is a nickname so people don't have to say Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Something like the Flaming Faithfuls or what? No. Using our names, like a celebrity couple name. How about like Mia Bedrack? Or let's see, Shag Me in Bed. Nope, that's not it. Yeah, so I peeked in, not going according to plan. How in the blue blazes of Babylon are they still alive? I explained to him that God simply made us flame retardant. He seemed really confused by that. Some people just can't grasp the power of God. I thought he said something else. Also, are they multiplying? Because I'm pretty sure I only put 3 of them in there. Where's Daniel, by the way? I noticed when the idol went up, he pulled the old poof Enoch disappearing trick. Maybe he's in the lion's den. That hasn't happened yet. I think he's out of the country. Huh, look how that worked out. Little heads up would have been nice, like, hey, take your vacation next week. He's a dream interpreter. He's not Zoltar the fortune teller. Well, what do we do next? After a traumatic event like this, I'll probably be a life coach or... I was thinking barbecue joint. Meshach Smoke Shack. How are these guys the fastest swimmers? I mean here. Now, what do we do next here in the furnace, where we stand. I can hear them talking in there. They're asking each other what they're going to do next. Imagine what God's going to do to Nebuchadnezzar if he doesn't let us out. Well, he let us out, not a single hair singed. Don't even smell like smoke. Inhaled a lot of it, though. Turns out that their God, our God now, is the true living God. It's not about what you know, it's who you know. I won't be doing this to people anymore. It's not a very godly thing to do. However, if anyone speaks out against our God, I will cut them to pieces.
Ready or not, we'll be right back. That Kevin. Now, back to That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to That Kevin Show, thatkevinshow.com, all social media, all podcasts, everything. My email address, it's all there. Just one stop, thatkevinshow.com. Go check it out. All right, you've seen, probably heard on some level about the mayoral primary that was held this week and kind of the shock that it's sending to the political system across the country. What exactly is a Marxist, socialist, radical Muslim doing as the primary nominee for mayor going into the general election this fall? Here to discuss is a man who won his own primary this week for the city council seat from Staten Island, Frank Morano, longtime friend of the show as well. Frank, welcome back. It's good to see you. My national viewers and listeners may not fully understand the complexity of something called ranked choice voting and really how the New York political system works. And I remember you and I having more than one discussion about ranked choice voting going back numbers of years, and you seem to be a fan at the beginning. After Mamdani has won the nomination for the Democrats, do you still feel that way?
I do. Honestly, this election hasn't changed my opinion of ranked choice voting at all. And a lot of the people trying to use Mamdani's win as an attempt to somehow say ranked choice voting produces weird outcomes, they need to keep two things in mind. If this was a standard election, as what happens for most cities, Trenton, whatever, most cities that don't have ranked choice voting, you would have, Mamdani still would have won the primary because he got the most votes. Now, if this was how New York City used to conduct mayoral primaries prior to 2021, Mamdani still would have won the primary under the old system, because the way the old system worked was if you got more than 40% of the vote, you were the nominee, done, signed, sealed, and
Plurality
delivered.
was all you needed, not majority.
Well, no. You needed 40%.
Right.
But if you didn't get 40%, then the top two would face off in a runoff. So let's pretend Mamdani got less than 40%. That would have led to him and Cuomo in a runoff. And it's clear, with 70% of Democrats in New York City opposing Cuomo, Mamdani would have won that as well. So
this brings me to the bigger issue. And this is why it scares the nation as a whole, because you're in essence saying that he cleaned up on the Democratic side of the ticket, and even moderates. Adams didn't run. Cuomo was going to run both in the primary and then as independent. As we're having this conversation right now, it's not clear what he's going to do. I hope he drops out, because I think that that's the only chance for the non-radical to be elected. But let's press forward into this. The Democratic populace, the voters in that party, at least in New York City, have moved. And this is the city that had 9/11 be visited against it in a more dramatic way than any other place in the country. I know that he had a strong volunteer force, maybe 50,000 volunteers. He's offering everything free under the sun. But how is he convincing New York Democrats, particularly with his history of anti-Semitism, to vote for him in such strong numbers?
Well, a couple of things. One, there's still about more than half that didn't, even after the ranked choice, where we'll see where things end up. He got about 43% of Democrats to rank him first. A couple of things. One, Cuomo ran maybe the worst campaign any frontrunner has run for mayor of New York City in the last 50 years. Do you know how difficult it is to lose with universal name recognition, with almost limitless amounts of money, being endorsed by the county organizations of all 5 parties, having organized labor support more deeper and bigger than anyone else? Oh, and by the way, if that's not enough, we have a multi-billionaire Mike Bloomberg that's going to write a check to an IE that is going to allow you to spend limitless amounts of money. And with that, he still managed to lose. Why? Not only because of his baggage, and you have some people that don't like him, especially on the left, over the sexual harassment stuff. Nobody likes him because of the nursing home scandal. That's not a partisan issue. That's left, right,
his baggage was significant. I'm not going to dispute that.
Then he manages to do nothing. He didn't do any interviews, even with friendly media outlets. He was a ghost. He thought he was going to coast based on his name and his money. Mamdani, on the other hand, in addition to promising the world to anybody, ran a very creative, very aggressive campaign, not only digitally, but with boots on the ground. You can't be, this is a guy, Mamdani, that 6 months ago, when he became a candidate, was polling at less than 2%. No one knew who he was. Even the people that knew who he was didn't seem to like him very much. And he managed to turn that around. And that's a testament to the kind of campaign he ran, where the population among Democratic primary voters is ideologically now, and the total failure of Andrew Cuomo.
Is this so? And we've got limited time. I want to make sure we cover all this.
Understand.
Is this a collapse of the middle of the Democratic Party in New York? Are those independent, more moderately minded Democrats, do they exist? Can Adams marshal them for a win in November? Is this a point where the Republican Curtis Sliwa, who probably will not win, is not going to be able to really impact the race either? I mean, what is the outcome? What is the outlook for our city? This is you're plugged into this way deeper than me. What do you think is going to happen?
It's very interesting. I don't think Andrew Cuomo is going to run as an independent candidate. I think after the abysmal campaign he ran in the primary, I don't see a lot of the donor class wanting to invest in him. I think Adams is going to run a very aggressive campaign in the general and have plenty of money to do it. I think Adams's support is primarily going to come from the black community. If you look at the areas Mamdani lost, he lost the black community big. He lost the Hispanic community big. I think
and he didn't do well with poor voters, lower income.
He did very well with young voters. He did very well with white voters. He did very well with South Asians. I think if 80 to 90% of the Democratic of the black vote is going to abandon the Democratic Party in the general election, it's very difficult for the Democrat to win in New York City. So I think it really is going to be a choice between Curtis Sliwa and Eric Adams. I don't see, with Adams enjoying the support that he has from the black community, Mamdani being able to win. I think aside from the experience issue, I mean, this is a guy that's 33 years old, that's been in office for 4 years, state office, mind you, not city office. Right. Aside from the experience issue, aside from the fact that a lot of ethnic communities, rightly or wrongly, are not going to be comfortable voting for a candidate of Mr. Mamdani's ethnic baggage, aside from a lot of the radical positions that he's taken, you have a situation where the black community and the Hispanic community has not shown a willingness, and for obvious reasons, the Jewish community, to embrace Mamdani. I think it's very difficult for any Democrat to win under those circumstances.
Okay, I'm seeing open calls in pro-Trump circles for the president to endorse Adams, and it doesn't seem as unusual, maybe to some, as it should, because Adams is not a lifelong Democrat. He's been a former Republican. He's been an independent. Now he's going to run as an independent. And in light of the immigration crisis, he definitively became more warm to Trump following the election of 2024. would Trump's influence in any way help Adams get across the finish line?
No question. Trump's endorsement is going to have an impact, at the very least, on the Trump donor class.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Okay, Frank Morano, City Councilman for New York, thank you for your insights.
Thank you, Kevin. I look forward to coming back soon. Congratulations on all the great success you've had with the show.
Thank you. Kevin McCullough from New York, don't go away.
From New York, that Kevin McCullough.
All right, friends, I want to say thank you to those of you who have started us off on the road this year to helping on our annual cause. We love doing this because it changes lives in such a huge way. And just a few weeks ago, I told you that there are 208 human slaves that we know the names of, we know where they are being held captive, we know how to negotiate their freedom, and we are bringing them home in the year 2025. And I want to say thank you because as of right now, we have seen 31 of those captives be liberated, be spoken for, be taken care of. And it's not just the liberation. There's a lot more work to it than that, because once you get them liberated, then you need to be able to provide them what is necessary for them to start their life over again. So you need to provide food, you need to provide some shelter from weather, you need to provide utensils that they can cook and clean and fish and do all that stuff with. And then there's a kind of a fun part of what your gift gives them, which is they get a female goat, a little female goat, and then they can use that, and it makes milk and cheese, and it has little tiny kidlets, and they are able to then create a life for themselves as a result. Friends, your gift today will help us continue to work towards that goal of getting all 208 human slaves liberated this year. So I've asked you in the past to be generous. Friends, this morning, today, this weekend, I'm asking you to be extra generous, and here's why. The McCullough family has decided that we are going to use more of our personal resources this year to challenge you, to encourage you to step forward and to say, I want to be part of this. So this weekend, we are going to match every slave that is liberated. And if you are actually thinking about doing it, and you've been saying, Kevin, I've been thinking about it, this is the weekend I want you to take care of that. I want you to do that, because we are going to step up and say, yeah, we're going to match that slave for slave. So here's what I want you to do. 888-342-1010, 888-342-1010, 888-342-1010. You can call and talk to someone, or you can just go online and give at bringherhome.org. Bringherhome.org will allow you to do that. Bringherhome.org or 888-342-1010. And nothing explains the story of how this all works better than hearing about one of the women personally. Take a listen.
My name is Nanya Newt. I was about 15 years old when I was captured. My mom had spent the last few days teaching me all about what it meant to be a good wife and a mom, showing me how to cook and sew. She had hoped I would get married in the future. One day I was out collecting firewood, and that was when the Arabs found me and captured me and took me to Sudan without the chance to tell my family goodbye. It took me many days to walk the complete journey. They gave us boiled sorghum as we went, and the men that had been captured with us faced grave dangers. They were considered to be spies, and most of them were killed right in front of us. Upon arrival in the north, I was sold to a master in Miriam village, and then I was sold almost as quickly to another Arab in McCullough Gate. He made me work for his family, sweeping the compound and washing the dishes. They worked me long and terrible hours, pounding sorghum, fetching water. And then they said, in order to be a good Muslim woman, I would need to be circumcised. I was held down as it happened, and then I was forced to marry. Against my will, they forced me to work even when I was sick. If I did anything that made them angry, they would beat me. My master never bought me any clothes, never paid me for any of my work, and barely ever fed me. Then one day, I heard about a CSI retriever, and I ran to find them in the town. As it turned out, they were freeing slaves in my region, and they had not known about me. But I think God allowed me to find them because they brought me home. We walked that same journey back to South Sudan. And today I thank God because I am free. I thank the Arab retriever because he helped. I thank CSI and for those who gave. I cannot thank those of you who gave money to help us become free ever enough in all of my life. But I do hope that my prayer is answered, that we will not stop until they are all free.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. Here he is from New York. That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. It's That Kevin Show, thatkevinshow.com for literally anything related to the show, whether it's email, social media, most recent TV show, radio show, podcast, etc. Glad you're with us. Tiffany Justice is back with us here at the microphone, and she is with the Heritage Foundation and battling for the rights of parents. And Tiffany, it's good to have you. I think that some things some people accept as common sense. You would hope that with the idea that Donald Trump was running as a common sense candidate and thus far has governed as a common sense president, that this would be coming back into fashion. But it seems like some of the hardest ingrained far left elements that are really dedicated to kind of ripping families apart still seem to be well funded, still seem to be well organized, and very much have intentions on not going anywhere. So what can we do about it?
Well, I mean, one of the things that you can do is take your children out of the public school system. You know, I want parents in the driver's seat when it comes to every issue that's impacting their children and their families. And one of the things you can do is homeschool, or choose a school that aligns with your values that you're raising your children with. You know, the public education system has been used as a weapon against our country. Our children are being indoctrinated. They're being turned into little social justice warriors at school, taught, you know, very anti-God, anti-American, anti-parent and family values. And that has to stop. And so one of the things, again, that I think parents can do is pull your kids out of the public education system. It just doesn't seem to be a safe place for our children right now.
Well, and with the language that's included in the big, beautiful bill, at least thus far, if it survives reconciliation, we're going to have even more financial resources to be able to do that.
Absolutely. And the president made a commitment to American parents that he was going to put us back in the driver's seat. I interviewed the president while he was campaigning in late August of this past year. And one of the things that he said to me was, I had no idea. He had no idea what was happening with parents and schools before he, you know, even in his first term, you know, the idea that a parent wouldn't have the sole right to direct the upbringing of their child, that the government might think they know better than a parent for their kids, was just absurd to him. And so he's taken every action that he can to really, again, put parents in the driver's seat, to safeguard women and girls in sports and private spaces, and just a really huge champion for American families.
The fact that we're at this point is you and I were joking off air. It seems a little hard to believe because America has been founded on Judeo-Christian principles, and we've been a successful society, I think, in large measure because those principles have pervaded our society and culture. We're definitely moving into an era, or had been moving into an era for a number of years, where even the tradition of what our country represents is something that is mocked, made fun of, downgraded, degraded by those that have positions of authority. Is there any hope for that in the public square? You mentioned homeschooling and private schooling. I'm a big proponent of those, but I think we also need to be sending ambassadors into the teeth of the dragon to slay a few of them as well. What's the best strategy for that?
Yeah, well, I like the idea of creating more charter schools with separate boards, really taking as much power as we can away from the teachers union. They are the foot soldiers of the progressive far left. Since the Department of Education was created, really in service of the teachers unions, they've had enormous amount of power over our schools and over our political process, right? They raise a lot of money. They put a lot of money into local campaigns, especially school boards, because they know that they want to change the fabric of our country, and they want to use our kids to do it. So I'm just a big proponent of really challenging the system at every single turn. And again, American parents, we had no idea before COVID, really. I think the majority of American parents didn't realize how poorly their kids were doing in school. They didn't know about the indoctrination that was happening in the classroom. So I always, I make COVID lemonade every day with the fact that Americans woke up in time to save our country.
I hope and pray that that's actually correct. Now, at Heritage, you guys have launched something very exciting. Please tell us the basis for the Parental Rights Network.
Yeah, so we have the Parental Rights Initiative at the Heritage Foundation, and it's really, again, talking about the foundation of our country, how important family and parents are. The idea that, you name your kids when you have a baby. I have 4 children. You name your child, and no one questions you naming your child. But all of a sudden, we send our kids into the public school system, and sometimes schools are giving your kids a different name and different pronouns. So, you can see how far away we've gone, or our government has gone from really respecting family. And so the Heritage Foundation wanted to put a focus on family. We know that it's one of the most important parts of America, and one of the most important things to continue to make sure that America continues to thrive for another 250 years. This Parental Rights Network is a weekly call that we're holding to really create more collaboration across the movement. So many different people are involved in parental rights. Being a parent, having a family touches so many different elements of the work that so many organizations do across the country. So this is an effort to bring everyone together and to make sure that we're all rowing in the same direction.
Let's talk just for a second about the impact of parents on a kid's life. One of the things that has been documented by secular scientists is that when a child has a mother and a father in the home, they do better than a child who only has one. When they have a mother and a father who are, for instance, committed in their faith, they do better than just a mother and a father that are just there. When they're committed to their faith and committed to one another and to a growing marriage and a building family, they tend to do better. In other words, the more that they dial in to the sacredness of that idea of the family unit, the better off that kid is long term. But why is that the case?
Well, I think, 2 parents in a home is the ideal that we all need to continue to fight for. I recognize that that's not the reality in some American homes, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't talk about the fact that that is what's best. Family dinner is what's best, right? Reconnecting with your kids, talking about their day. What are they learning in school? Bringing your family together to share a meal is something very simple that parents can do to reconnect with their kids and to make sure that they're sharing their values and involved in their lives. Technology plays a huge part in our children's lives. And so parents, it's never been more important for parents to be involved, I always tell parents, get all up in your kids' business, right? Be on every chat, see every app that they have, really, why is it important? Why is family so important, or parents? Because children are young.
If people want to be connected to the Parental Rights Network, what's the best way to get involved?
Go to the Heritage Foundation website, heritage.org, and you can search for parental rights. You'll see all about the initiative. You'll see a button there that says join the movement. That'll get you signed up for our weekly calls. You'll get that newsletter, and you'll be able to connect with other people who are like-minded and who are working to save America.
It's so encouraging. Appreciate all the work that you're doing. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Kevin McCullough coming right back from Times Square. Don't go away.
Ready or not, he'll be